they never quit trying to take us over. So if all we can do to help Cuyahoga is huge.
Okay. So if there's anybody that hasn't volunteered yet,
I've got cards.
I've
got cards at the table over there, and just take one and we can get started.
That's great, Janie. I could not have given that much detail because I'm not.
Because you're teaching all of us.
Well, I'm also a candidate in 42 cities, so I'm like using toothpicks. Let's go on to the next issue. This is an issue that I'm not sure is resolved. There's been documents online that say that some different voter machines can actually be tampered with by remote control devices that can change numbers in machines. This is the area I know least about. I'm just mentioning it, okay? And I don't want to tell you that I'm here as an expert. I'm here as an activist. I'm here as a person who's worried about every one of these things. So I've heard the Secretary of State's office talk a few times about the security of the machines. And what they're talking about is how the machines are actually properly delivered and observed and watched, and how people have to be next to each other when they're running the numbers, and how everything gets delivered. And it does sound like from top to bottom that they are definitely monitoring the machines, but I have not heard any official address the articles that have been online talking about voter fraud related to small remote control objects that can affect the voter rolls. Okay, this is what I told you before. This is what the Ohio Revised Code stipulates in 2 places. A person shall not be considered to have gained a residence in any county of the state into which the person comes for temporary purposes only, without the intention of making such county the permanent place of abode. I've never heard the word abode in a law, but it's in this law twice. Okay, so this is what the form used to say. The form used to say, you will be a resident of Ohio for at least 30 days immediately before the election in which you want to vote. Okay, that's not what the law says. That's what the voter registration form said. So my husband worked, he's a lawyer for Romney this time around, but we each worked the polls once as a poll worker, so you really know what goes on there. So he worked at the last election as a poll worker because we didn't need observers, we didn't need lawyers. And he came home and he goes, you know, this voter registration form is goofy. It doesn't mirror the law. So I thought, aha, something to accomplish. So when John Husted was running for Secretary of State, I went to this luncheon at this fancy place, and he gave me his cell phone number, and I thought, oh, this is cool. I'll put it in my phone and I'll keep it. I mean, I never intended to call him or communicate with him, but I thought, when a candidate gives you their phone number, don't say no. I'm sure he gave it to me so I could call up and tell him how big of a donation I was going to give. But that was not the benefit. The benefit was that we started to look at the voter form and the law, and my campaign manager for my campaign, Jack Boyle, a lot of you know Jack because he worked on the estate tax issue, a really good friend, a real good conservative that is always there if you need Jack. Anyway, Jack knows Houston, so I said, we had a meeting with Sharon Ely, myself, Greg Badger, Tom Zolostowski, and Jack. And we were talking about these 6 items that we just went over. And Jack was the one in the group who said, well, I know Houston because we were working a lot on these issues and blah, blah, blah. So he called him directly and he said, you know, our group got together, we think the voter registration form needs to be fixed, and this is why. So Houston said, okay, I'll get back to you. And a few weeks later, he got back to Jack and he says, you know what? We agreed. We're going to work on this form. So I go, ha, this is great. I'm going to send Houston a text message that says, I just heard the news that you're going to work on a voter registration form, and I'm really pleased, and I want you to know that. And I sent a very short text and signed my name to it. Houston writes back, it was Memorial Day weekend, he goes, yes, we're very happy to help, have a great weekend. So some time goes by and we don't hear anything. So I text him again, Mr. Houston, how you doing? It's Bev Goldstein again. Just wondering what's going on with that voter registration form revision. So I get a text back, oh, we're working on it. And a few days later, Jack gets a phone call from the office and they say, you know what? We've made some improvements on this form and we're going to sort of send it out to our people, and it has to go to their legal, and it has to go, you know, the government. It has 50 places to go. So we said, well, that's good. So I text Houston again, and I go, oh, I just heard the update. I didn't want him to think that I was not following this. Just heard the update that this is really moving along. Good job. And so the language got approved, and by this time, I had texted him probably 5 times. They started calling me. I thought, this is good. When they call you, they know that you're the person who's really on it. The new form went live online on June 15th at 4 o'clock. And this is what it says. Residency requirements. Your voting residence is the location that you consider to be a permanent, not a temporary residence. Your voting residence is the place in which you habitate. It's fixed, and to which, whenever you are absent, you intend to return. If you do not have a fixed place of habitation, but you are a consistent or regular inhabitant of a shelter or other location to which you intend to return, you may use that shelter or other location as your residence for purposes of registering to vote. If you have questions about your specific residency circumstances, you may contact your local Board of Elections for further information. And then a little bit below that it says, whoever commits election falsification is guilty of a felony of the 5th degree. Now, this isn't exactly what we wanted, but it's really improved, because what we had here was a form that says you live here 31 days and you're good to go, just register to vote. And if we took a person to court and wanted to convict them of a 5th degree felony, they could say, excuse me, it's not my job to read the Ohio Revised Code. I went to register to vote. It said, was I here for 30 days? I was here for 32 days. I did not break the law. So we had a voter registration form in place that prevented us from finding anybody and making them the poster case of, you voted fraudulently here in Ohio and we're going to make an issue of it. What this new form, and I'll just pass it around so you guys can see it. I meant to bring copies, but I brought only one. What this form does is it gives us a little tighter spigot. And what we're talking about here is closing the loopholes, every one of them, as much as we can. Are we going to get every dead person off the rolls with True the Vote? No. Are we going to get everybody who's voting illegally in Ohio to stop? Not everyone. But maybe you have a person who's been brought into Ohio, they're given that form, and they read the residency requirement, and then below it it says, oh, 5th degree felony. I'm not sure I'm that in love with Barack Obama that I want to commit a 5th degree felony. So I see the form as a win. I really credit myself for dogging it. I certainly was one of the people. I did get a call from the Secretary of State's office a couple weeks ago, before it went public, that the federal government has sued John Houston. So if we don't think the stakes are high in Ohio, the stakes are really high in Ohio, okay? Yes? Oh, thank you for saying that. The federal, another weak area of this matter is that The federal voting law, whatever the name of that federal voting law is, says that you can't prevent a person from registering to vote because they don't have the right form. They can register actually with a napkin. They can walk in and write their name and address and their identifying information and show their ID, and they don't really even need a form. We don't mention that to people, okay? If they don't know about it, we don't say you don't need the form. So Houston's office says to me, Avi Safini, he's a really nice guy, he's a Marine. Avi says to me, Bev, you know, we're going to use this form, and we're going to have it printed as soon as we use up all the old forms. And I go, that is not acceptable. That is absolutely not acceptable. And he goes, but we have thousands and thousands of them, and we can't waste taxpayer money. I said, then recycle the forms. We do not need these forms. So I pushed really hard on that. They sent them to print right away. They are going to be sending them out to the 88 counties. What we're trying to tell everybody on our side is, when you're out doing what I'm doing, talking to one person, talking to 10 people, talking to 100 people, know about the new form. You can go online, print it off for yourself, and you can go into your Board of Elections in Medina and say, I want to make sure you guys are using the newest form. This is really important to me. And maybe if 30 of you show up, you can offer to recycle the old forms. You know, we'll take, when you get the new forms. So catch this. Janie and I are at We the People. I don't know who else here was at that conference, but that conference was so wonderful I could have stayed all week. There wasn't one speaker who wasn't relevant, and we couldn't hear everybody because 5 talks were going on at the same time. You had to pick one of 5. The Secretary of State's office has a booth at We the People, and True the Vote came from Texas to make a presentation on the second day. So I thought, oh, this is excellent. We're going to be able to show this new form and pass it around. They go to the booth, they have the old form. So at 11:30 at night, I send Avi a text message and I go, we're having a presentation tomorrow morning on True the Vote. We want to show the new form. Why is the old form in the booth? And he writes back, I'm sorry. I will go to the office, this is midnight, and make copies, 200, and have them there in the morning. And in the morning, we had 200 new forms. We passed them out, we got to talk about it, and all I'm saying is, you just don't stop, okay? You just don't stop. If you're lucky enough to get on an issue and you're the lead person and you can make something happen, you just keep moving with it, because everything we tighten up is one more opportunity for us. Okay.
Sounds like we should ask for the old forms and then use them all up in the wastebasket.
Oh, right. You each need at least 100 because you're going to go everywhere in your county. That's it. That's the plan, Jim.
Right. You need at least 100. And if they have a pile sitting on the desk, you might have a little accident with your coffee.
I'm so sorry, sir. I did not mean to ruin this 100 forms. I'll recycle for you. Okay. Barack Obama is really an awful person. He's an awful person because he's pretending not to be an awful person. Most awful people are just awful and you know it. But this guy's got a wife and she smiles all the time and 2 cute kids and they smile all the time. And they're just a wholesome American family taking America away from us. So I'm going to probably be telling you stuff you already know, but I'm just going to go through this. This part of the presentation is connecting Barack Obama to Saul Alinsky, who was the socialist community organizers, and to other significant Marxists. Who was Saul Alinsky? He was born to a Russian Jewish family in Chicago in 1909. He helped establish the tactics of infiltration, communist and socialist infiltration. He coupled this with measures of confrontation They've been central to revolutionary political movement in the United States in recent decades. He never himself joined the Communist Party, but instead, as David Horowitz put it, became the avatar of the postmodern left. He was very connected with the mafia. He learned a lot of his tactics from interactions with very high up guys in the mafia. He was sort of the Jewish guy in the mafia. Not in the Jewish mafia, there's actually a Jewish mafia, but he was very connected to the Italian mafia in Chicago. He identified unemployment, decay, disease, crime, distrust, bigotry, disorganization, and demoralization as inevitable byproducts of life in capital America. We just don't do anything very well here. We are just a terrible place. Identified a set of very specific rules that ordinary citizens could follow and tactics that ordinary citizens could employ, no holds barred methods as a means of gaining public power. In his book, Rules for Radicals, which a lot of you I'm sure have or read or heard about or learned about, he created the blueprint for revolution under the banner of social change, social justice. The American power structure was evil to its core and justified any means. Two of his greatest disciples alive today are Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. Hillary did her senior thesis in her undergraduate program on Alinsky. She actually interviewed him personally. Barack Obama did not know Saul Alinsky, although he was very involved in his organization. Okay, some of the organizations associated with Saul Alinsky, it would have filled up 5 slides. If you go to discoverthenetworks.org and you click on an organization, it shows up 50 other organizations, and you click on one of those and it shows up 10 more. And it's like, they're like an amoeba. They're like everywhere, in every issue, in everything. So the Gamaliel Foundation, which is one of the organizations in which Obama spent some time, and the Industrial Areas Foundation. The IAF was established by Alinsky in 1940. It's a national community organizing network. It provides training and consultation, furnishes organizers, and develops national strategies for broad-based community organizations. This may be an old statistic. When I looked it up, it had 57 affiliates in 21 states, Canada, the UK, Germany, and Australia. It describes its chief purpose as power and its chief product as social change. And you can see the Metro IAF logo at the bottom right there. IAF strives most aggressively to bring religious institutions into its fold. This is the connection to the greater Cleveland congregations. On the theory that church affiliations will help inject the network not only with access to large amounts of cash, but also with perceived moral credibility. As the IAF handbook states, one of the largest reservoirs of untapped power is the institution of the parish and congregation. Religious institutions form the center of the organization. They have the people, the values, and the money. IAF Training Institute was launched in '69 by Alinsky. It's a school for professional radicals. It trains in the tactics of revolutionary social change. It was headed by ex-seminarian Ed Chambers. The latter part of this presentation connects the Catholic Church, the infiltration of the Catholic Church to the IAF, and Chambers was a seminarian in the Catholic Church and then went on to work for Alinsky. And he's run the organization since Alinsky's death in '72. The leadership programs consist of 10-day sessions, which Barack Obama attended while he was a law student at Harvard, and it also offers a 90-day internship program for aspiring organizers. The purpose here is to connect you, make sure you definitely believe my connection that I'm telling you about between Barack Obama and Saul Alinsky. In '98, there was a theater production called The Love Song of Saul Alinsky. This information was brought forward by Andrew Breitbart before he passed away. Obama was not only in the audience, but he took the stage after one performance, participating in a panel discussion that was advertised in the poster. It's impossible to read from your distance, but in the red at the bottom lists who the special Sunday Post show discussions will be led by, and Barack Obama is one of those people on that list. Obama taught Alinsky's power analysis methods at the University of Chicago. This is a photo of him diagramming it on a blackboard in a classroom. Photo's worth 1,000 words. Obama's favorite rule is number 13. Pick the target, freeze the target, personalize it, and polarize it. I'd like to ask you guys, I know most of you watched a lot of the debates. Who here saw the debate where George Stephanopoulos asked Governor Romney what he thought about contraception, whether states should? How many of you saw that? Okay. I sat in my kitchen with my wonderful husband and I looked at him and I go, Michael, what the hell is he asking that question for? This is like out of nowhere. And Governor Romney, although he was polite and didn't say what the hell is he asking this question for, said, I don't know a state that wants to outlaw or regulate contraception. Why are you asking me this? Well, what have we been talking about since then? Okay? This is the tactic. Pick the target, freeze it, polarize it, and publicize it. And they started with George Stephanopoulos asking that question, and it has just evolved and evolved and evolved. So, keep your eyes and ears open. Anytime something weird comes up in these situations, it's obviously a precursor to a plan. Both Michelle and Barack include Alinsky's code words, necessary to change the world as it is into the world as it should be in their speeches. This is language right out of Alinsky's Rules for Radicals. Some of the acquaintances of Barack Obama, there is a video out now that suggests that Frank Marshall Davis is Barack Obama's biologic father and that he raised Barack Obama probably from the age of 10 till he was 18 and went off to college. Frank Davis is a pedophile. He is, well, he's dead now. That's the good news. The bad news is he was a really bad person. I don't know why people haven't come forward, but he has photographs. He photographed a lot of kids and women in sexual activities. Obama discusses Davis in his book, Dreams of My Father, but then this movie that Gilbert came out with, Dreams from My Real Father, A Story of Rags and Deception. When I put this PowerPoint together, this documentary was not out. There is actually an effort underway to get funding to mail this documentary to 1 million independents in Ohio. That might actually happen, which that's what people are getting on an idea and trying to figure out how do we change hearts and minds with education. And there's a group of people working on this. I'm not telling you it will happen. I'm telling you it's being looked into. And I hope what we're talking about here is not general conversation that you chat with other people about, because this is our side, these are our issues, these are the things that we are trying to use to our advantage in a legal and honest fashion. Leon Despres is one of the people that impacted Obama. He was a guy who was a communist and worked on some of the Republic steel strikes in Chicago in the late 30s. This man should be the most famous man in America. He is really the father of Obamacare. Quinton Young. He is a communist physician in Chicago, and he's really the guy who really came up with the fundamental aspects of how you give government control of health care. Humule Black, president of the Socialist Party and Negro American Labor Council in the 50s. In the early 60s, he was the leader of the Hyde Park Community Peace Center. There's always peace, justice, you know, all those kumbaya words are always in there. He was friends with Bill Ayers and Bernadine Dohrn going back to '68, long before he knew Barack Obama. This woman is another person that Barack Obama has had connections with. Roberta Lynch, a leading member of the Democrat Socialists of America. It's a radical Marxist New American movement. Because the mainstream media did not explore Obama's roots, the American public remains largely ignorant of the degree to which Obama's work with Acorn and his love of Alinsky were symbolic of his true political will. That's her quote. Derek Bell is somebody who's been in the news probably within the year. They were talking about the concept of critical race theory. You know, when we talk about diversity, that sounds like such a nice word. My opinion of the word diversity is, I'm Jewish, you're not, well, we obviously hate each other, right? Or I'm black, you're white, we obviously hate each other. Diversity has become a social justice means of fighting Americans and dividing us and separating us and making us trying to figure out how different we are from each other and what our needs are that are different, instead of focusing on American exceptionalism and how we are patriots together and how we are going to give America in the next 200 years to the people who come after us what we got from the people from the 200 years before us. We're like right there at the moment. Are we going to give them the America we have, or they're going to have another totally different kind of America that isn't what the founders decided and worked 180 years to create for us? So Sonia Sotomayor, when she was moving through the process of becoming a justice on the Supreme Court, made the comment that her wise Latina experience will shape her judicial reasoning. That's diversity, that's critical race theory, that's saying because I'm a Latino woman and I've had these experiences, I can have a different view of what the Constitution is than somebody who's white and came from a Protestant family or whatever. Okay, Barack Obama also authored a chapter in a book called After Alinsky Community Organizing in Illinois. He wrote chapter 4. I'm just bringing this to your attention. There isn't any aspect of this whole Alinsky thing, from training and writing and community organizing and being a lawyer for their organizations. There isn't anything Barack Obama didn't do for this socialist effort. Okay, Greater Cleveland Congregations, this is their address. The lead organizer is Ari Lippman. Ari is not from Ohio. Ari came to Ohio to ruin Ohio. If I could run Ari Lippman over with a bus, I would. However, I would probably go to jail and I wouldn't be able to win my election. So being very, very interested in changing education in Ohio, I will not run him over with a bus. When the GCC website was first launched, this IAF logo on the right was on the GCC website. And then they got smart and they went, oh, we're going to separate the view of the IAF from GCC. We're going to like pretend that the GCC is not part of the IAF. So they took it off the website. So I had some people go to the GCC website after I mentioned this, and they said, Bev, I don't see the connection. So I will then bring it to your attention. Following in the footsteps of Chicken Man, who is everywhere, you know, Chicken Man everywhere, everywhere.